What's going on, guys? Bingo here. I'm with the Duel Factory for episode 31 of X2 Drop, our weekly Yu-Gi-Oh podcast. We do talking about anything and everything that has to do with the trading card game. And this week, we decided to go with a vague topic of the competitive mindset because me and Joe have been playing Rogue at locals for 2 or 3 weeks now. But as you guys know, when we take Rogue decks to garbage decks, I don't know what you want to call them, to locals or regionals, we want to do the best we can. So we maintain that competitive mindset and deck building and theory crafting, and that's really what we want to talk about because we are in one of the eternal formats. We're now in Orcus format, and it just seemingly will never end. But we'll get into that as we go. So, Joe, you've been playing Marincess. I don't know if it's anticipation of the support or if you just like the way the deck plays, but why have you been playing Marincess?
Generic water support's dope.
Oh, yeah. For anyone that doesn't know, Joe, his claim to fame is he won a regional way back in water format, right?
Not water format, but when we first got Neptibus.
Okay. But, yeah, so anything and everything water, he's praying title comes off the ban list, but go ahead.
I would love for title to come off the ban list, but no, anytime we get generic water support, I think it's really cool and it's a lot of fun for the game because the water attribute actually has a lot of like cards you can have. The Marincess being like, essentially it's all a one-card engine, and one card equals a generic Link 3 that's like really, really easy to make. Now you can do it with a generic Link 4 or something like that. I can't remember all the plays because we haven't received the new cards yet, but I always try to like mess around with it. Unfortunately, I think the best way to play with the cards right now is the Paleo Frog deck. You can play it in the Mermail deck, but you just don't have enough to really capitalize off what Seahorse does. And that's because they lock you all into water monsters whenever you use the effects of like an enemy, Blue Slug. I think it's just those two that lock you into water, but they're your main staying pieces of the deck. So, I mean, you kind of have to go with that. But an enemy works really well with Swap Frog. There's a really cool combo you can do that has with Seahorse and Swap Frog that ends on like the Link 4 equipped with 3 and Toad and stuff like that. Like the deck can do a lot of cool stuff. That's why I enjoy playing it right now. I think it has really good matchups across the board because it's one of the things that has like the meta deck mindset where it replaces itself with another card every time a card leaves off the field, which I think is really good. And it has a really good grind game, but it does fall short in some stuff, but it's one of those decks that's going to continue to keep getting better because it's going to have more and more support coming as the sets go by.
Yes, and when you guys pick a deck you want to play, a rogue deck, and you want to play competitively, you need to identify the deck's weaknesses. So what are Marincess's current weaknesses given the support that we currently have?
So for what we have currently, outside of Signet Mining, the best monster that your main deck has, which is Marincess Seahorse, is Unsearchable. And then the engine it best pairs with is the Frog engine. Your best Frog is still Unsearchable, so you don't see that combo as much as you would like, right? Your extra deck pool is very small of what you can actually make. You have a majority of your extra deck from what I use, because I play currently 9 Marincess cards. And everything else that you can make, like, these cards are cool, and they're really good, and they're really, like, they let you stay in the game for as long as possible, but they don't have any, like, overwhelming or overbearing negation effect, you know what I mean?
Yeah, your win condition is basically grind till you can just kill your opponent, right? Like, there's no boss monster that is going to straight win you the game.
Like, don't get me wrong, once you have access to your Marincess engine, like, you can, especially now that we have the field spell and stuff like that, you could put big damage on the board because you're bringing monsters out at like 4K and 3,500. But, like I said, a lot of these pieces are unsearchable. Like, one of the best cards in your deck, Marincess Wave, it's an unsearchable trap card. Now, once you have access to it and you have access to Seahorse, then it becomes insane because then it's a never-ending loop because you can keep adding it back. But right now, it's unsearchable. And honestly, the best card you can make in the deck, and you can only do it with access to the Frog Engine, is totally awesome because it does everything you want for the deck. And the big fatal flaw, is that right now the best version of playing the deck is the trap version. And trap cards, as you know, are already inherently slow, so the deck itself is going to be inherently slow. But like I said, it's going to continue getting more support. Its matchups across the board, honestly, aren't that terrible. And it's just, as long as you just don't completely punt your resources away, the deck's actually really good. Like it's really, really good right now at grinding out your opponents.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that I see from somebody that doesn't play the deck is it looks like because of your engine requirements, you have to sacrifice some utility cards like in the extra deck. So have you ever ran into a situation where you just didn't have access to one of the generic staples like Phoenix, Unicorn, Boral Sword, Boral Load, any of those types of cards, because you're playing 15 waters, if I'm not mistaken, because of that restriction?
Yeah, it's all water monsters in my extra deck. I mean, it's not... There's been a couple of... So I played it for 3 weeks now, and there have been a couple situations where he's sitting there like, man, if you could make like a Phoenix... or you could make a Unicorn, like it would make your situation simpler. Like, what is it? I was playing against, I don't know how I ended up getting paired against this every single week, but I get paired against a barrier statue stun player. And like, the statues are actually like just like big problems, but like usually a normal summon of a seahorse gets over it. But if you just have like generic cards to go into it, it'd be a little easier. But there's never been a situation where I look at my extra deck and there's not something that I could have done that just couldn't have been done with something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you have cards like Shooting Code Talker, which is a water link 3 that can clear boards because it can attack multiple monsters at a time. It's actually really good against Sky Striker.
Is it like Purgatrio, or does it only gain X amount of attacks?
It's like Purg. Let me read it real quick. So for those of you who don't know, it's a super rare out of Fist of the Gadgets. And it takes 2+ Cyberse monsters to make it, so you can make it with an... Actually, if you open Seahorse, you can make it with just Seahorse because it'll bring back all the stuff you need. But at the start of the battle phase, you can activate this effect. This battle phase, this card can make attacks to your opponent's monsters up to the number of monsters card points to +1. So it's a link 3. So theoretically, depending on where you have it linked, you can attack up to 3 times. And then, but this turn, when it attacks your opponent, it can only attack your opponent's monsters, which is fine. And it loses 400 attacks. So it becomes a 1900 monster that can attack up to 3 times. Actually, yeah, it can attack up to 3 times. And then this is where the card really shines, especially like when you're in a more simplified game state. At the end of each battle phase, you can draw cards equal to the number of monsters this card destroyed by battle this turn. So it's a way of clearing multiple monsters, which this deck honestly had a lot of time struggling with at first when I started playing it. And then you can also get deeper into your deck, and for a trap deck, that's insane, right?
Yeah, and like you're saying, that's really good against Striker because of the Ray recursion and whatnot.
Yeah. Sometimes you need and then like being able to get rid of like generic cards and stuff like that. You just need like more. What would make it better is if I didn't have to play so many Marincess cards, or if we had a bigger link pool with more like water attribute cards. One of the things the deck really lacks is a generic monster you can make that can move cards out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a Phoenix or a Unicorn or a Cerberus, which you can play those cards, but it's really, really hard to make in the deck.
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to rely on your Frog Engine pretty heavily to do that.
Yeah, the only monster that you have that's generic that you can make in this deck for that kind of situation is the Paleozoic. Starts with I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's 2400 attack, and he takes 3 level 2 monsters to make. But for those of you who don't know what he does, when he has a trap card underneath him, he's unaffected by monster effect. Or no, he's just unaffected by monster effect in general. And then once per turn, if a trap card is sent from the spell and trap card zone, I can excavate the top card of my deck, and if it's a trap card, I can add it to the hand or send it to the graveyard, whatever. And then its other effect is if it has a trap card underneath this XYZ material, I can pop a monster during either player's turn. Not pop a monster, but pop a card during either player's turn.
Yeah.
So it's effectively a Zodiac Trident for your archetype. But like the problem is like you have to invest 3 level 2 monsters, and you're not always in that situation. But it's the closest thing to a generic popper that you have for an archetype like this.
Yeah, and the synergy between the Frog Engine and the Marincess engine only goes so far because the frogs are all level 2 aqua, and like the only real synergy they have is the attribute. The typing and level is different, and I'd imagine that it does come up quite a bit.
Yeah, when you look at your hand sometimes and you see like seahorse and frog, like it's a really, really good combo, but you will get into simplified situations where you really wish that the seahorse was like level 2, because being able to make a toad would be like insane, because like that's a cool thing about the deck is like all the Marine Cess cards add a card back, and Totally Awesome is going to continue adding card back, so you never run out of resources, which is something I really, really like about the deck. And you can play cards like Miss Starboy and stuff like that, and everything adds back a card, and that's really, really insane. But you also mentioned it yesterday, and I really wish we had something like this. There's not a solid generic rank 3 water monster you can go to either. For example, yesterday I tried playing Sea Archiver for the first time, and it literally just sat there and did nothing. Like, it's a water monster, you can special summon it. You would think it'd be really good, right? Because you can also search it with Sign Up Mining if you already have Seahorse. But it's just one of those cards like, cool, this is there, but it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, it's a solid extender. The reason that card is so good in BA is it's recurring every single turn because you're overlaying with it. And if you get one use out of it and you either had to search it out or you hard drew it, like, you're not getting any value over the grind game, right?
Exactly.
One day we'll get a Invoker for water and it'll get banned.
That'd be insane. But when you look at, like, it seems like the deck has a lot of negatives, but you also have to remember it's continuing to get more sets, so the deck's going to continually get better. Like, for example, Chaos Impact is a couple weeks out. We get the monster's best normal summon, arguably, in Blue Tang.
Yeah, that's
which that card's really good.
Foolish Burial, right?
Yeah, it's a Foolish Burial for any Marine Cess card, and then it also has the unique effect of when it goes to the graveyard, you can reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and if any of them are Marine Cess card, you can add one of them amongst you. So technically, it's a way to pseudo-search a Marine Cess wave, which becomes really important, but...
So, yeah, so by pseudo-search, you mean if Foolish is can you add the trap card that you Foolish somehow in the combo string?
Actually, yes. So... all the Marine Cess cards, so for example, Marble Rock's the easiest way to do it, because Marble Rock can add back any Marine Cess card. Coral Anemone, when it goes to the graveyard, you can add any Marine Cess card back. And then Blue Slug only lets you add back a monster, but it gives you access to the Coral Anemone, which will let you add back the wave. And then, yeah, so your generic monsters that you're going to make already, every single one of them have access to pull that card out of the graveyard for you.
All right. And the reason we're going through this like mindset so heavily is just that Joe's a very competitive player, and when you are playing casually, you need to identify the deck's weaknesses, the strengths, how to supplement those weaknesses, and how to exploit those strengths. So knowing your deck, knowing its interactions in the metagame versus your local scene or the regional expectation is huge, because you can't have success if you're just knowledgeable in your deck. You need to understand the interactions. I'd say for a rogue player versus a meta player, understanding the meta interactions is more important than if you're just playing the best deck of the format, because usually the best deck of the format is the best deck because it allows for misplays more forgivingly than a rogue deck, where if you misplay, say in Invoked or something that doesn't generate a lot of advantage, you're probably going to lose the game against a meta matchup.
Oh, no doubt. It's one of those hard things that's like, it's very, very hard to come back from. But like you were saying, identifying what your deck's well at doing makes it a lot easier for you to be able to combat against those meta decks. Like, for example, Thunder's a hard matchup for me, right? Colossus is a hard card to deal with, not because it prevents me from searching, because my deck doesn't do a lot of searching, but it's hard to remove cards like that. So you need to be able to move those cards out of the way. So that's how you kind of like pick like what Paleozoic traps you're going to play, and so on and so forth.
All right, and that's what he's been playing. For anybody that knows anything about me, Dark Magician's my favorite casual deck, and I've been playing that for like 3 weeks, struggling. The build is not a traditional build in any means. There's a 8 card danger engine, along with what else? What else am I playing in this fucking thing?
There's a card danger engine. I know there's a spellbook engine.
Yeah, there's a small spellbook engine consisting of 2 knowledge, 1 secrets, 1 blue boy, and there's logic for everything. 2 apprentice. So when I look at Dark Magician, when I was building it, I'd say the best part about the deck is your access to level 7 monsters. And assuming once your engine is online, it's self-sustaining. If you can protect it, if you can leave circle and soul on the field, you're going to be able to overwhelm your opponent along with resolving navigate. Like Dark Magician, when it is set up, it is a good strategy. It's not ever going to be meta because your only interaction outside trap cards is just 1 banish per turn. That is all you're doing, but because you have access to level 7 monsters and just constant monster reborn, as well as like just other weird effects, you're going to be able to OTK your opponent relatively easily. And the reason for the danger engine is I wanted access to Ebon Illusion Magician as fast as possible because I feel like that is one of the best cards in the deck. It is a way for you to get to Dark Magician without relying on trap cards, because sometimes you can't rely on trap cards. Let's say you open like a Danger, Apprentice, and Tsuchinoko, or not Tsuchinoko, Jackalope or something. You can special summon the Jackalope, or special summon the Apprentice, discard the Jackalope, special the level 7 out of the deck, and try to resolve Nessie or something. It just gives you access to, yes, it's a lot more RNG, but it's lone fire for Dark Magician out of the deck. And it helps make boss monsters like the BLS Link. It puts on 7,500 points of damage, assuming you have access to like Eternal Soul or something. So the deck has its problems. The biggest one being is you have to rely on purple cards. And when your best card is destroyed, it fucks your entire strategy, which I don't even want to get into that. But playing around that, I was trying to get into cards like Beat Cop from the Underworld to put a patrol counter on it, and just go about how can I protect the best cards in my deck, which is the back row. So that's the way I like. Dark Magician's a super casual strategy, but taking it to locals, playing competitively, like I would love to play cards like Phantasme, but half the decks in our locals don't link summon.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll cite it, but for the most part, like you can't expect your rogue deck or your casual deck to be the best deck in the room. You really can't. You have to understand that you're playing at a disadvantage just going into the matchup.
It's kind of unfortunate though for your deck too. Now I think about it, because like not having access to Phantasme, you also don't have access to that Dark Magician fusion card that's really good.
Yeah, Phantasme being a dragon.
Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, is that what it's called?
Yes, and I mean that card's phenomenal because you can recur it with Eternal Soul. It protects Eternal Soul and Circle, and it's just there's no good way to get to it. Like if they could just errata Eye of Timaeus to be searchable, that'd be great.
I mean, there's Dragon Caller Magician, but you already tested with that, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it conflicts with like your robe summon and stuff like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's too restrictive. Like it's got a discard cost, and it's just like it's really awkward.
Wait, is it discard or send?
I think it's a send. Either way, it locks you into fusions for the turn.
That's tough.
Yeah, so like you can't. If it didn't do that, you can mess around with cards like Ultra Polymerization, and that would help you like establish more board presence. But if there weren't restrictions on cards, like we wouldn't be able to have a competitive discussion. But the reason I wanted to play this deck was I'm leaving my local soon. I just kind of wanted to have fun. And then we memed Dark Magician support into existence.
We did.
And
we have that.
And that support, seeing that really got me like, how can I make this the best possible right now? And I was looking into it. There's a lot of different builds out there. Like playing like 10 garnets with like the ritual cards. Like, yeah, when decks like that work, it's awesome because you're popping a card, you're banishing a card every single turn, then you're overlaying and you're just getting more value. But like you're gonna open dead like 3 out of 5 games.
See, that's more where you have the competitive. You aren't using a competitive mindset at that point. You're using just for fun, like, these cards are really cool, but in like actual practice, they're not very good against actual meta decks.
Yeah, and shout out to the one guy at our locals who is playing main decks 2 Artifact Scythe at all times because he doesn't want to open the one. It's like you're sacrificing your deck's consistency for the off chance. It's like playing 2 Garnets for Brilliant Fusion. Like when you would see in a 60 card list, when you would see 2 Garnets, 2 Cobra, and like it's just like this whole like mess where and like 4 or 5 equip spells. It's like that's literally 10% of your deck that you don't want to see those cards.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I actually played against said duelist and he lost because he opened a copy of Artifact Sanctum and it wasn't a water monster.
I mean, the artifact. Hey, quick, completely irrelevant topic. If you set an artifact in a spell and trap zone, is it a spell? Is it a trap? Is it a monster?
You know how long it's been since I've actually read the artifact text? Give me 1 second here, but I'm pretty sure it's considered a spell card.
All right, this is completely irrelevant, but it's for another rogue, probably one of our favorite rogue decks, Invoked. I just want to know if you had a set artifact card in the spell and trap zone, is it still a monster? But it's just because I haven't read the card.
No, it's either considered a spell or trap card. That'd be wild because you could just like, I'm going to fuse my back row, and they're going to be like, what? And you're going to be like, what? But no, they're considered a spell or trap card, but I can't remember what they're considered. So let's find good old Scythe Boy. You can set this card from your hand to your... they're all considered spell cards.
Unfortunate.
I'm surprised I actually remembered that. Holy shit.
All right, so what are your by far favorite casual or rogue decks that, you're always thinking about, like, when you hear support, but you never really play?
It's a tie between Mermail and Hero. I love playing Hero. I don't know why, but like it's just one of those decks. Like I'm always sitting there, I'm thinking theory, and like it's an interesting one to bring up because we just got cards for it. But 1, they're super overpriced for what they are, and 2, they're like you play one-ofs of each of them. But I mean, it's one of those cool decks, man. Like especially now because like Hero's like one of those decks. It's like Black Wings, right? Like Konami's always going to give it eternal support, like no matter what year it is, and they're always going to be printing new cards for it. And every once in a while, you get some bangers out of there, right? Like for example, we got Vision Hero Ferris, we got Vision Hero Increase, Vion was earlier before those guys. We just got the new Evil Hero cards and Adusted Gold, which gives you a way to kill your opponent even faster now. Like there's some really cool cards, and there's like really really cool interactions. Like a lot of people don't realize it, but when Ferris sets Increase from the deck. Ferris is not treated as a continuous spell card. It's treated as a continuous trap card. So its effect to summon itself from the spell and trap card zone by sending a hero to the graveyard, that's a quick effect because of the game mechanic of it being a continuous trap card. A lot of people don't know that. So there's like cool niche interactions and stuff like that. But it's one of those decks that you don't think it's going to be tier 1 because there's too many restrictions on its archetype, saying you can only special summon dark monsters or you can only special summon hero monsters or something like that, which don't get me wrong, they're good, but there's not enough of them to make it a tier 1 threat. So that's why, to me, it's always going to be like a rogue or like a casual deck, but it's a lot of fun. It's always changing. That's why I like playing it.
Yeah, and these are those decks that like you really want to play. It's like Saturday, like early afternoon or like Friday night, and you're like, man, I want to play this for locals tomorrow. But you never want to bust out the binder, take out all the cards, like change the sleeves, and you're just like, like is it really worth playing these? So for me, that has to be Oh, fuck, man. It's probably something with the zoo cards, Light Sworn. What else? What else?
This man's going to play full powered zoo against Marine Says Frog player.
Yeah,
the worst
so yesterday after locals, I actually stayed through the whole thing plus some, which was really weird. I sat down with said guy that plays 2 Artifact Scythe, and I was like, hey man, you want to play? And he thought I was playing Dark Magician because we just sat next to each other the whole locals. And I had my OCG Zoo deck on me, so it's like max rarity for like some English staples, but then all OCG cards. And then I think I went first. The first thing I activated Tanky, and he's like, what the hell are you playing? And then I full Zoo comboed him, and he's like, I don't think you're making legal plays right now. You're putting black cards on top of black cards. Because he never played in the Zoo format, and I just want to play the Zoo engine in some capacity. Like, Barrage is such a good card, but there's nothing left.
There's nothing to make.
There's nothing left.
Man. I mean, fun fact, you can use Barrage and the monster you summon off it plus any other Beast Warrior to make Eagle, so that's kind of cool, but like, it's just not there, man.
You just Barrage, summon Thoroughblade, discard a, what's it called? Discard, is Eagle any 2 Beast Warriors or level 4 or lower?
Yeah, he's any 2 Beast Warriors.
Yeah, so Thoroughblade, discard a Zoo card, Chakanine, bring back, there's your Eagle without normal summoning.
Exactly. Barrage, Thoroughblade, discard. That's combo.
Oh my god, Chakanine.
There's some cool. I'm thinking of some cool stuff you can do right now because you can go Barrage. Okay, let's say we open Broken, right? You can go Barrage, summon Thoroughblade, and then discard. We'll say Rat because you're broken at this game. Or whatever, it doesn't really matter at this point. But you use you do the Chakanine play. I mean, you're already your deck slots. But then you're making Eagle, right? Now you can do the cool thing like where you open like a Tensu or a Tenki. You can use Tensu to get the additional normal summon an elephant. Elephant effect, special summon any Fire Fist out of your hand, and then you can just send it. You don't have to, but you can send back a Fire Formation for cost to use it to add Panda, and then you're just going off for free. Like, bruh.
Like, when you think, like, that card, like, Barrage on its own, it's amazing to me that card was never touched. Because it's just this insane extender, and, like, with Trident in the format, which obviously it's not, it's free material, like, if you normal summon Thoroughblade, discard Ram with Barrage, even still, like, that's like 5 monsters.
All right, let's calm down with the wind-up.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's like if you open, if you open Magician Shark, it's yeah. But it's like, what if you don't?
Exactly. There's so much cool stuff you can do in Yu-Gi-Oh! But
Windups is another deck that before Firewall was banned, I tried to play it all the time, but now there's legitimately no way to play the deck.
It's sad, man.
Tugboat to 3.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
that's a little tough.
Yeah, that's especially the link format where you can get them off the board super easily.
Yeah, that's real tough, Coach. That's real tough.
I mean, we don't have an Avarice. I guess we do have Emerald, but like, whatever.
One of the Victim of Zoo format, rightfully unbanned. Just putting that out there.
All right, guys. We got like a minute left. This was just something fun we wanted to do. When you're going to your locals, obviously the number one thing is have fun. So if you're not deck building to have fun, then don't do it. But if you do want to get more competitive, you need to identify those things that we talked about earlier. Your deck's weaknesses, the inconsistencies, the flaws in the deck, as well as identify the strengths and how can you exploit those against the current meta decks or your local scene. Because, I mean, free packs are free packs. Whenever you're going to locals, you should want to come in first, especially if, Like, you just want to talk shit. That's the best part.
Exactly.
I still have not won with Dark Magician. I've gone X1 every fucking week.
He's gotten pretty close, but
yeah, it's really. I think I lost to you last week, didn't I?
No.
No, did I lose to Aaron?
Yeah,
I lost to Aaron.
Aaron's obviously our residential rogue master versus the rest of us, so that's kind of funny. But it just goes to show you, man. Like, one of the last things I'll probably say here is, just because your deck is not a rogue deck, do not let it discourage you from playing it. Just identify how it plays. Because there's people whose entire YouTube channels are built on being rogue warriors, the biggest one being Asian Persuasion. That's all that dude plays. But he identifies what his deck does well, and he does well in events.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
The only man, he topped a regional with spellbooks. And by that, I mean jogging control, because that's what it was. But
he didn't top 8, but he got his invite. I mean, that's pretty good in today's age.
With
spellbooks,
that's fucking phenomenal. So we're over on time. Joe, you got any last minute things?
Like I said, just don't let it discourage you. Just figure out what your deck does. And there's people like Douglas French who just have no sauce, so they can't do that.
Piccolo, you have no sauce. Hey.
All right, guys, that has been episode 31 of X2 Drop. These come out Monday, 08 on iTunes and Google Play, 10 a.m. on YouTube, youtube.com/bingohd, and youtube.com/theduel factory. With that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
Okay, bye.